I'm Cheryl from the Modern Monstera. Welcome to my home. Come and check out my plants. I first got into houseplants when I bought my first home. And the only way I could think of to furnish the house was to really fill it up with plants versus buying furniture. The Modern Monstera is a plant business that I started back in 2019. It's a plant styling business as well as a plant rehab business. How many plants do I have? If you include all the cuttings and the propagation and everything, all the baby plants, I would estimate maybe about 150 to 200, but that's an estimate. So this is my front entrance, and as you can see, it gives off a bit of more filtered light. This is actually south facing, and this is where I also have a lot of my lower light plants, such as my golden pothos. And even if there's light up here, even though it's south facing, it doesn't really reach directly on this plant, but it's still growing really, really well. So if you want something super easy, golden pothos is pretty much your go-to. So this corner is very dark. There's no light that reaches here. So this is why I thought it was a really perfect space to add a FABRIKÖR greenhouse. And this is where I store a lot of my plants that need a little bit more consistent lighting. One of the plants that I love is this Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor. And the reason why I love it is the coloring on the leaves. It looks like camo. It looks amazing, and it's really happy in this little greenhouse. My philosophy around plant styling for your home is really to think about how to bring your home to life with greenery. And for me, the foliage, the textures, the variegation, the coloring, there's just so many ways to add character to your space with plants. This is my main floor living space, and this is also where the majority of my plants are. So if we walk over here, this is my plant shelf wall, and these shelves are actually modular. And the cool thing about these shelves is that these brackets are movable, so you can move it up and down depending on how much space you need. I know a lot of people don't recommend growing plants by a north-facing window, but to be honest, I would say that my plants have been super happy. Like my Fiddle leaf fig, my Anthuriums, my Monstera albo, my Thai constellation, they've been growing by this window for many, many years. And instead of saying that north-facing windows are not great, I would say it really depends on the size of your window and if you have any obstructions. This is my Fiddle leaf fig, and it's one of my favorite plants in the house. So this plant actually has a lot of history. I've had it for quite a couple of years, and I first bought it at Home Depot, and it was this small, and then it grew really big. But then I had to chop it down because I was getting some leaf drops. So it was completely bare. There was one leaf left, and that was about 1.5 years ago. And I let it stabilize. I gave it some worm compost, watered it as per usual, and this is all the new growth ever since then. And I think this is a very normal cycle for plants. It goes through different stages, and it usually comes back to life. If you're looking for a statement plant, I would highly recommend the Ficus Tineke. I love this plant because it adds so much color and dimension to your space, especially if your typical plants are just green. This adds a pop of variegation and texture, and it just looks amazing in any corners. And on top of that, it's super easy to grow. When we first moved in, this was a completely blank wall, and I had no idea what to do with it. So of course, I added plants. And if you don't have real estate on the floor, it's always a good idea to move vertically. So this is why I've added vertical planters, and of course added a shelf, and then even built this little mini shelf at the bottom to hold even more plants. One of my biggest scope for the Modern Monstera is plant rehab. And I would say that that's my expertise in my plant business. The process of plant rehab, typically the plants are dropped off here at my home, and the client and I will have a conversation on what's wrong with the plant and what I can do for it. I would highly recommend always checking for pests, and the way you do it is you hold your leaf and then you take a close look, but then you also look underneath. Some of the mistakes that I see people make with their plants is never checking for pests. And it's always assumed that you will never get pests, but I say never. And then you check behind here, behind the petiole, to see if there's anything white or anything black or anything cotton ball-like. And always go around with a wet towel and give your leaf a little wipe down. Let's go downstairs. I'll show you guys my plant studio. So my plant studio is actually in my basement. And as you know, basements typically don't get a lot of light. So in order for me to grow, I installed a Millsboro greenhouse, and this is the reason why these plants are able to survive in my basement. Some of the main questions that I would ask of clients for plant rehab is, how often do you water? Where is your plant sitting in your home? Is it by a window? Is it away from a window? Is it on a shelf? These questions are very important for me to know, to understand how I'm going to handle it once I get the plant from the client. So this is a plant that I'm rehabbing. It's an Anthurium, and when it came to me, it had a lot of yellow leaves. You can actually see some of the old leaves here, but it wasn't growing at all. There was no flowers. So after a couple of months under my care, now it's flowering like crazy right now. So it's super happy under this grow light. It's a very gentle grow light too, but the fact that it's growing in the basement where it's a little bit cold and damp, it just shows you that plants are resilient and they're able to survive and adapt. Even like a year or 2 years later, I still get emails or DMs with the plant on how it's doing, and it's doing amazing. It's just one of those proud mom moments, plant mom moments, and I feel so proud of the client for doing such a great job. So for me to be able to even hand over the knowledge to someone else is such a great feeling. This is my plant studio. This is where I do the majority of my work. I do a lot of my repotting on this counter, and I wanted to note that these lights over here are actually grow lights. So these two, Ficus ruby and this Ficus Tineke, have been growing here for many, many years actually. I wanted to show you one of my weirdest plants. I'm not a cactus or a succulent person per se, but I love this monkey tail cactus because it's so weird, it's so hairy, and so different from what I usually collect as plants. And it's extremely unique, super soft, and I just can't stop rubbing it. I grew up very traditionally. You know, I did my engineering like a good child, and I never had the forum to really be creative and do what I wanted to do until maybe later into my adulthood. And when I got into plants, that's when I really wanted to become knowledgeable, and I got really good at it. In fact, I did my horticulture certification, and my grades were so good compared to what I used to have in university. And it's because I was interested. It was because I was passionate about it. And because of that, I feel so much happier as an adult than I did as a kid. It's giving me so much joy every day, just being able to play around with plants, experiment. This is all really feeding into my adulthood right now. And I feel like a kid, but I just feel like I'm in a plant playground.